Alyssa here with this week's episode of Awkward Author. And today I wanted to make a video explaining what exactly book bloggers are, because there seems to be some confusion for some authors who are not quite sure what book bloggers are. Now, if you've spent any time on the internet in the past decade or so, and any of that time has been spent perusing or searching for information related to books and publishing, then you've probably encountered book bloggers and know what book bloggers are. And you probably don't need to watch this video, but I'd be honored if you did anyway. Book bloggers, or booktubers in the case of those bloggers who prefer to make their reviews in a video form as opposed to a written form, are individuals who have a passion and love for reading and books. And they share this passion with the world without any thought towards financial remuneration. In other words, they are a lot like authors. Book bloggers can share this passion in a number of ways, which includes writing book reviews, doing author interviews, creating general posts about books and reading, or running giveaways. Now, unlike professional reviewers, most book bloggers are not paid for the reviews they create. They can receive compensation in other ways, usually through advertising or affiliate links. But the book blogger that's earning big bucks from a book blog or booktube channel is a rare creature. If you're an author, think about how much money you make from the sale of your books in a typical day. Then divide that number by 10. And that's about how much a book blogger earns per year. So you may be wondering, why do book bloggers do this? Why do authors create books? Passion makes us do some weird things. Passion makes us do things that might not make financial sense. Now, there are book bloggers who do have goals in mind, which can include using their blog and their experience creating a blog and creating a following to do something more, whether it's create a creative project, take a job as a paid book reviewer, or in the publishing field in some way, or book selling field, or use their experience to get a position doing social media for a larger organization. Having a well-established book blog with a nice following probably looks good on college applications as well. But in general, I would say most people who get into book blogging do it because it's something they have a passion for, and they just want to share this passion with the world. It isn't something they do because they want to get rich or get a great job or achieve some goal. Book bloggers can have specialties. They can focus on a certain genre of books. Most book bloggers are not too specific, although they're not going to read books that are outside their genre or that they wouldn't ordinarily pick up. That doesn't mean they're going to like every book that they read. So just like ordinary people, some book bloggers are going to love a book and other book bloggers are going to hate it. That's just life. There does seem to be some confusion about the purpose of book bloggers. I've heard authors and publishers talk about this, that they raise the issue that book bloggers don't really seem to sell books, that they don't see the purpose in them as an author, in that, they don't see a lot of sales being generated because their book or a review or an interview was featured on a book blog. That is not the purpose of book bloggers. It is not their job to sell your book. If you do happen to get a lot of notoriety from being featured on a book blog, that's awesome. But don't feel that it is the job of the book blogger to sell lots of copies of your book, and that's just not the way it goes. Working with book bloggers can help you to increase your exposure, especially if you're a new author. Now, because book bloggers are not paid a lot of money and usually are not independently wealthy, they may write to you asking for free copies of your books, which is all well and good. And if you have copies that you can provide for them and it makes sense for you to do so, please go ahead and do so. But it can get expensive to do this. If you're providing physical copies of your book, there's not only the cost of the book to consider, but also the cost of shipping it to the reviewer. That's why a lot of publishers have moved to providing ebook copies. They use services such as NetGalley to provide reviewers, including book bloggers, with electronic copies of books, which is a lot less expensive. It costs a lot more money to print an ARC or advanced reading copy of a book than it actually costs to print the book in most cases, because an ARC has a much more limited print run. Unless you're, distributing advanced copies to, tons and tons of people, you're not going to print a whole bunch of them. And so the cost per book is more expensive than the cost of printing a finished book, because you're going to have a larger print run, and so the price per book is going to go down. And book bloggers don't necessarily realize this. Authors don't necessarily realize it. But it is something to consider when you're, factoring in the costs of providing reviewers with copies of your book. Now, if you have completed copies after, the book has already come out in print, and you can spare a few and want to send them to bloggers, that is fine. You could even do something where you ask the blogger to pass it on to the next blogger or pass it back to you or whatever. But again, there's the shipping cost to consider. Even if you ship a book media mail, it's still going to cost probably about $3 to send it within the United States, depending on the weight of the book. That gets expensive after a while. So that's why electronic galleys and electronic copies have become more popular, because it doesn't really cost anything to provide an electronic copy. Some reviewers prefer not to read electronic copies. Sometimes that's all you're able to provide. Sometimes you're not able to provide anything. If you are an author with a publisher, chances are you won't have electronic copies to give out of your book. You will have to have the reviewer contact the publisher, and sometimes the publisher will not approve a request from bloggers if they feel like the blogger's following isn't big enough, if they feel like the timing isn't right. There's all kinds of considerations that publishers will make. Some publishers will send, electronic copy to anyone who asks, and it really depends on the publisher, depends on a lot of factors. Also the timing, of course. If a book is already out in print, a publisher may be less likely to send an electronic copy for free, because that's like giving out a free book, and they want to make money on books, as do authors. If you can work with a book blogger, it can increase your exposure. It may not lead directly to sales, but do know that book bloggers actually like authors, and they do their best to help authors, even if they do sometimes write bad reviews. They do have to be honest, and they do have a readership, a following who values their opinion, and so doesn't want an opinion that's overly glowing when they were not happy with the book. So that's something to consider if you're working with book bloggers or working with any kind of reviewers, is that you might get bad reviews, and that's just how it goes. But yeah, we live in an exciting time. Before the internet, there was no such thing as book bloggers, and beyond professional reviews, there wasn't really a lot of places that books got reviewed. There was no Amazon reviews, there was no reviews posted of anything online, because there was no internet. Now you can read reviews of anything. You read reviews of products before you buy them. You can read reviews of books before you buy them. You can read reviews of restaurants on Yelp. So we have a lot of information at our fingertips. Sometimes it's an overwhelming amount of information, which is why authors sometimes have a hard time getting their books out there and getting noticed, because they feel like they really have to shout to be heard above all the noise. And book bloggers are one way of a little bit of a megaphone to help you shout and help you get your message out there if you are an author. As far as working with book bloggers, if you're going to actually seek them out if they haven't sought you out, take some time to actually read their blog, read the sort of books that they generally review. If you like what they have to say about other books and you agree with their views of those books, they may be a good fit for you. As far as contacting the book blogger, they usually have information about that on their blog, and they usually have their policies as far as working with authors goes. What sort of books they review, if they're open to being contacted by authors, what formats they prefer to review. So read all that information, and just like with anything, if you were submitting a book to a publisher or to an agent, you would want to read all their information before you just blindly send out stuff. And so the same applies with book bloggers, even though you're dealing with an already published book. So anyway, I hope that gives you some information if you were a little bit confused about who book bloggers are and what they do. And if you are an author, I hope this gives you some tips in terms of working with book bloggers and helping to get your book noticed by the world. My name is Alyssa Grasso. I put out new Awkward Author videos every Tuesday. I try to cover different aspects of publishing and writing in books. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel, giving this video a thumbs up, leaving a comment for me below, or sharing this video with your friends. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you again next Tuesday.